Okay, so the learning strategy that we're going to be talking about today is called Gather Up Facts. It's 9.5. So we have this nice handy dandy fact bucket right here, and we're going to be reading a book called The Story of the Great Depression. So my fact bucket isn't all the way full yet, so I need your help to finish filling up my fact bucket with facts from this book from the Great Depression. So I'm going to read a section of this book, and then we're going to think of some facts that we could use to fill up the rest of our fact bucket. So, here we go. The Great Depression stunned middle-class Americans who had thrived in the 1920s. During that preposterous decade, families bought houses, furniture, and automobiles. Then came the hard times. One girl who lived in a comfortable house in Cleveland remembered, "All of a sudden we had to move. My father lost his job. We moved into a double garage. It was awfully cold when you opened those garage doors. We would sleep with the rugs over the top of us, dressed under them." By 1932, 1 of every 4 American workers was unemployed. People who kept their jobs took deep cuts in pay. Clerks in department stores earned only $5 a week and considered themselves lucky to be working at all. The millions of jobless suffered indignities they never dreamed they would endure in America. Writer Edmund Wilson claimed, "There's not a garbage dump in Chicago which is not diligently haunted by the hungry." Last summer in the hot weather, when the smell was sickening and the flies were thick, there were 100 people a day coming to one of the dumps, falling on the heap of refuse as soon as the truck had pulled out and digging in it with sticks in hands. So, based on that text that we just read, it tells us a lot of different facts about what was going on during the time of the Great Depression. So, looking back at our text, one of the things was it was a statistic about how many workers in America were unemployed. So it says by 1932, which is when the Great Depression was going on, so we could say 1930s is the time period, or the time frame, because that's when it was happening. So that's a fact that could go into our fact bucket, so we're just going to draw a little arrow, and then it'll help fill up our fact bucket. And then there's another one that I'm going to come over here, right, and say 1, and I'm going to draw out a slash to say it's out of 4 Americans was unemployed. 1 out of 4 Americans unemployed. Bless you. Okay, and then let me look back at our text because I can't really remember, but it's okay to look back at our text to see if there's anything else. So when it talks about Edmund Wilson, he gives us a quote, and it says that a lot of people who were hungry would come into the dumps when the dump trucks would come to bring all the stuff, so there was more there for them to dig through. So we're going to draw a little arrow here because I forgot. And then I'm going to write hungry people would go to the dumps to eat, and they would dig through the trash. So hungry people would look through trash to eat, for food to eat. Would look through trash to eat. And now we have a bunch of other facts, and we could keep going throughout our book and find so many more facts to fill up. Probably more than just our one fact bucket here. But that is one strategy to help us with comprehending the material, because now I can go back and say, oh, I read this book about the Great Depression, and I know that the Great Depression started in 1930, and by 1932, 1 out of 4 Americans were unemployed, and hungry people would go and they would look through the trash to eat, to see if they could have any food to eat because they couldn't afford to eat, or they lost their jobs, so they weren't getting any income.